Now let's go straight to paper review, and we have Dr. Constance Ikoku on her second advent. Glad to have you back.
Thank you for having me back. All right, to look at the newspapers this morning with us, we have Igor Akerera. He is a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. Cardoso, Edun foreign investors say confidence restored in Nigeria's economy. FG okays 704 billion naira for Abuja Kanu Road project. Tinubu discharges Ade-John, Ohanenye, Mamman, Gwarzo, Ibrahim in cabinet shakeup. More Ibrahim report ranks Nigeria among 11 worst ruled African nations in 10 years. And then on this website, we have a story that says, now that the president is back. So we're going to pair that with the Mo Ibrahim report. Igor, what do you suspect we'll see in the coming weeks now that the president is back from his 2-week vacation? And then we also we are among the worst ruled countries in Africa. I mean, do we deserve to be on that list?
Well, that's an interesting assessment. It is, some will say it is subjective. It depends on the side of the divide that you belong or you are looking at it from. But generally, if that question is posed to Nigerians, most Nigerians will indeed say that they are not having the best of times. So if that predicates within the assumption that if things are not going well within the country, then there is a leadership question. So if there's a leadership question, then of course citizens are not getting the best of democracy dividends, so we are not properly ruled or governed. So that assessment to some extent could be correct, like as I said, depending on the side of the divide that you belong. Supporters of the president or politicians in the APC will disagree with that assertion, but ordinary Nigerians, I'm sure, they will go with it. But now that the president is back, as you rightly said, the papers, that is what dominates most of the papers this morning. Now that he's back, the president apparently appears to be hitting the ground running with some landmark decisions that he has taken. The issue of cabinet reshuffle, 5 of the ministers are gone, some have been moved around and replaced, and there are about 2 new appointments. Very interesting, but what comes out resounding for me is some of the ministers that were dropped. Top of the list is Professor Tahir, Minister of Education, Mamman Tahir, who there was so much expectation when he was appointed last year, and that he was going to do so much. But within a year and a half, Tahir proved that he could not put his hand on the cradle. 2 important things that he did that didn't quite resonate with Nigerians. One was the issue of the pegging of age for WAEC and JAMB. He was insisting that Nigerians must be 18 years. Those who intend to write JAMB and GC must be 18 years. And that brought about a whole lot of controversy, with even the National Assembly having to step in. So that was on. And then the other one was the issue of our neighbors, Benin Republic, Togo, the universities there, where the ministry could not really deal with the issue. We have people who went to universities in those countries and graduated. Many of them are working, even in the federal civil service and across the states of the federation. But a few months ago, the federal government just came up with a blanket ban on all degrees from universities from those countries. And it is not going down well with most Nigerians, particularly parents who have to pay foreign exchange to send their children there. That matter remains unresolved. A panel was set up, and up to now, nothing came out of it. So those are issues that touch the very core of individuals, depending on where you are. So clearly, Mamman Tahir was not able to put his hand very clearly on his assignment and responsibilities. That became a big issue. For the Minister of Women Affairs, Kennedy Uju, barrister, she came in with a lot of energy, but I think at some point she ran into problems with I can say cultural and traditional interest when she tried to battle when she tried to battle early child marriages, out of
right,
school.
Right, okay,
a lot of issues, really.
Right. Okay, I mean, a lot will be expected of the president. He's rested, or he's well rested. He went away to finalize that cabinet reshuffle. Do you see any seismic shift that's going to happen? I don't see any.
I am more interested in the question of governance.
Right.
When you talk about being the worst ruled or led, you base that on indices. Apart from personal, we all can attest to how the cost of living personally has skyrocketed. I'll just give you an example. I have here May 2023, to get a full tank of a car like Honda Accord will cost you 16,500. And in October, the same full tank will cost you 94,300. And Kechi mentioned the Ministry of Petroleum remained intact. I mean, these are indices. You wonder whether our leaders are really looking at the indices when they are leading. Because if you look at indices, you know that telling me that, or telling anyone that the foreign nations are interested in our economy because it's growing, I don't think that would gel with any Nigerian. And by the way, you don't mark yourself. It is the public who marks you. So whatever politicians say, whatever they say, is the public citizens who are going to say whether you're leading them right, well, or not.
All right. That's why that Ibrahim report, it didn't come out of the blue. These are reports that are thoroughly investigated and surveyed before they are established. Let's look at the New Telegraph. Speculations over as Tinubu sacks Uju Kennedy, Tahir, 3 other ministries in cabinet rejig. We've already seen that. Why Nigeria, others must embrace fiscal reforms by IMF. PMS importation drops by 33% to 106 billion naira. FEC OK's 443.3 million euros, another facility to procure fighter jets. And then we have federal government drops money laundering charges against Binance executive. I mean, after all that drama, all these months, the charges against this man, Gambarian, has been dropped. This was a man that was blamed for the collapse of the Naira. A quick thought on this.
Yes, the man, Tingram Gambayan, has been undergoing trial for a couple of months now. And just yesterday, the federal government entered, well, I can say nulli prosecute, that is a discontinuation of trial. Gambayan is being tried for his company, Binance Holdings, is being tried for $35 million, money laundering charges, along with, currency trading that diminished the value of the Naira. But if you read that report very well, published by the Daily Telegraph and a couple of other newspapers, the federal government prosecutor did say that the government came under intense diplomatic pressure, and then of course she also talked about the hurt of Gambayan that he required some surgery. So all of this put together, the government just thought that it is time to let him go, but that they were continuing with the prosecution of Binance. But for me, it is basically some kind of international diplomacy that came to bear on the federal government.
No, Nkechi, when you go to other countries, when you are accused of a crime, they follow through, and if you are acquitted, well, you are acquitted. But if you're guilty, then you serve your time. The way that the federal government carried about this issue initially, attributing Binance to the collapse of the Naira, you would not imagine that this man would then be acquitted of all money laundering charges. The trial hasn't concluded. What do you think? What do you make of this?
I mean, they were accusing Binance, and from reports, it says the EFCC basically was like, oh, look, actually, he's just an employee with no involvement in the company's financial decision making. And we always knew that Mr. Gambayan, he's just an employee of Binance. Like they said, they're still going on with prosecuting the company, Binance. And like Hugo said, this whole debacle and the decision to let him go comes on the back of intense diplomatic negotiations between Nigeria and the United States, playing a pivotal role in this issue. We know that U.S. lawmakers campaigned heavily for his release, and I guess Nigeria just had to do that. Right.
The Guardian, cautious optimism over Tinubu's reshuffled cabinet changes. We have the photos of some of the ministers there on the front page. Allow PDP breathe. Olobundiyo tells Atiku, Wike, the two big wigs in the party. NBS says 85.2% of Nigerians use estimated billing. Another 67.8% cook with firewood. In line with these statistics, it only means only 15% of Nigerians own prepaid meters. This survey was conducted in conjunction with the Ministry of Power and just mirrors or shows how much of a challenge there is. I mean, it's wonderful to have a data. At the same time, if you've tried to get a meter for your home, you would understand this number that we have here this morning, 85.2% all in. This is staggering, EO.
That is more than 10 years after the electricity sector, was unbundled. Basically, government removed its hands from the operations of the energy sector, particularly electricity. Don't forget, former President Olusegun Obasanjo initiated, the unbundling of the electricity sector, and 10 years, or almost 14 years after, we are still seeing this. Now, consumers, if you want, as you rightly said, if you want to get a meter, AEDC if you are in Abuja, because we now have regional discos. We have Benin Electricity Distribution Company, Enugu, Lagos, and Abuja. For Abuja, it's AEDC. If you want to get a meter, you pay for it. If you want to get a wire, you pay for it. Anything you want to get, you pay for it. Now, they still operate as if it is a government-owned organization. So Nigerians really, that statistics and that study is very correct. Many people are still paying estimated charges by these discos. And a friend told me that they benefit more, they earn more money when they build Nigeria, when they just slam estimated bills on consumers. But once you have a meter, you'll be able to manage your consumption. So this is an area that the government will quickly have to look at to protect consumers from these rampaging electricity vampires, as I would prefer to call them. The extortion is just too much.
Indeed. Adesso, are you shocked that 67.8% of Nigerians still cook with firewood?
You must have a crystal ball, Dr. Constance Okoko, and you're checking into my soul to just see. Because I was just thinking about it, looking at that report. As a Nigerian and someone who has also had to try to get a meter, I know that is a challenge. But putting a figure to the challenge is mind-boggling, because every administration, everybody that comes into power or heads the power sector talks about metering Nigeria. Every time, it's almost as old as the creation of the country, I must say, the metering problem. And you more than often hear discourse, the distributing companies cite financial constraints as to why they are not able to deploy meters. But bottom line, because you look at all the government initiatives that we have, for instance, there's the Presidential Metering Initiative, which aims to meter 3.5 million Nigerians before the end of this year. But a meager 3.5 million, that is disheartening. And, this survey looked at 9 states across the 6 geopolitical zones. So it is a widespread. Guess what the report also says? That a minuscule 3% of Nigerians were added to the national grid between 2020 and 2024. It is a disaster all around. And I see and I believe why many Nigerians may be disappointed with the cabinet reshuffle that has just happened. But the bottom line for me, it is all corruption and mismanagement. Because tell me why it is difficult to meter Nigerians. Who benefits from estimated billing? Who really does? That's the question we need to answer. If we find who does, who benefits from that, perhaps we'll be one step closer to solving the solution. It makes no sense.
Exactly. Right.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah, it is. It isn't rocket science. There's nothing that's rocket science in this. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but here we are. Let's look at Daily Sun. FG is $618 million to buy attack jet ammunition. Other reports actually said the Federal Executive Council has approved this loan from a group of financiers to acquire 6 fighter aircraft and ammunition for the Nigerian Air Force. Also earlier in October, the Air Force said it was acquiring combat jets and tracker helicopters. Well, there have been complaints sometimes of lack of equipment. This is being addressed, isn't it? And I mean, it's necessary, isn't it, Iyo?
I agree that we have security challenges, but if you recall, under former President Muhammadu Buhari, the federal government acquired about 12 Super Tucano jets, and at the time, Nigerians were inundated with assurances that once the country gets those Super Tucanos, or the issue of banditry, kidnapping, Boko Haram and all of that will be solved, that those jets will be deployed to tackle those challenges. But we've never seen so much impact of those jets. Now, the government needs another $615 or so million loan to buy attack helicopters. Is the government saying that Nigeria does not have attack helicopters? I wonder, you know. But this is coming at a time that Nigerians are really, really very hungry. There's poverty everywhere. If we get that loan and the government deploys it to addressing food production, tackling the dilapidated infrastructure like roads, trying to link railways from Kogi to Abuja, Kaduna to Kano, I think that will have much more impact. Don't also forget, most of these monies that we take as loan is diverted and stolen by, well, if you look at what's happening in the military, generals are on trial for like the case we reviewed last week or so, a general in Kano who had to sell a Mikano generative plant and divert funds meant for soldiers. So this is also an issue. If we get this loan, then the government must follow through to really supervise how it is spent.
Definitely, Igor, you are right. There is the other side of calls for audit and to make sure that these monies are accounted for. Let's look at the international headlines for you. Daily Graphic, NPP triggers parliament recall. The Speaker of the Ghanaian Parliament suspended proceedings indefinitely following the crisis emanating from the defection of 4 members from their party to another, and the Supreme Court ruling that it be halted. Now the party wants parliament recalled. There's trouble brewing in Ghana, Ndi.
Yeah, it's actually the leading party, NPP, who its speaker, stopped the parliament from working, and now the members of the same party are asking the speaker, within a 7-day period, to call back the assembly because government work will be affected and National Assembly issues will be affected as well. They're saying this is based on, national importance. It makes sense, but the whole thing happening in Ghana between the NPP and the NDC with the Supreme Court asking to stay action on the 4 members of parliament, who parliament says if you move from a party or if you to independent one, you automatically lose your seat.
Right.
So we don't know where Ghana is going with this. We'll see whether the Bagwin will call back the parliament within the 7-day period that the members of NPP are asking him to do. And
right.
we'll see how it goes from there.
There's this other story there on the front page of Daily Graphic. Add herbal medicines to National Health Insurance Scheme. I know Nkechi wouldn't like this. We had a conversation about herbal medicines the other day, and Nkechi was shocked that I'm for it. There's also the 13 presidential candidates on ballot, unnecessary. Too many people running for president.
She didn't like herbal medicine.
No, we're discussing herbal medicine, and she was shocked that I was for it. Okay,
not that I said I wasn't for it. I just said it needs a lot of regulation.
Right.
If it's something that a government wants to say, okay, we're going ahead with this, there has to be regulation. You cannot just make something in your backyard from your trees and go sell it out
because
to people.
our ancestors actually lived
right.
through that, and it worked.
Yeah, but
we're behind your bush and get something. It works.
We're in a new
I understand what you're saying.
Do you understand? We're in a new era with science, with regulations and things like that. So we have to move with the times.
Yeah.
Somebody would think that you're a doctor. You're
right.
this.
Points well taken. Okay. Points well taken. Let's move to Citizen. Putin is your friend, not mine. DA leader says his party does not consider Russia an ally of South Africa. This occurred during the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia. And you have to see the photo of the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, there in a handshake with Vladimir Putin. They're wearing a matching tie at this one, these two men. Well, you know, this government of national unity, they don't agree on everything. Obviously.
They can wear any tie at any time, Costas, please.
No, they're matching at this one.
Yes, indeed, they're matching, but we do know that red is a powerful color for executives, and you know it does stand out. So you more often than not see presidents, men of executive status wear red ties. But that's coincidence, though. I mean, I understand your point. So Putin has friends, enemies, frenemies, foes around the world. Perhaps Donald Trump would most likely be one of his friends.
Yeah.
The local politics of South Africa come into play here. Like you said, government of national unity hasn't really seen eye to eye on a lot of things. Just recently, they were discussing their national health insurance, and now they are talking about international diplomacy. We also know the geopolitics that is playing around the world. Russia is trying to, you know, stamp its foothold in Africa more, and we've seen an increase in that really in the scramble for the beautiful bride Africa as she is, with the US, Russia, and the likes, France, China as well, trying to scramble for what they can get from Africa. But we should also not forget that Africa itself needs to get something out of this relationship.
Okay, so it depends on how you are able to navigate that complex environment. I mean, Putin is not in isolation as the West would wish.
He's not.
He's out there, you know, in the BRICS and other countries. So the Daily Telegraph, slavery reparations demands will mean endless rows, says PM. The United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer is warning that if the Commonwealth of Nations push for reparation claims, this would be problematic for leaders ahead of the Commonwealth Summit. He advised that instead they should roll up their sleeves and work on current and future challenges. Do you buy Starmer's argument, Eagle?
Well, what you expect Starmer to say, he's under pressure right now. The United Kingdom government is under pressure. The Commonwealth government meeting is holding in Samoa, and many countries, particularly the Caribbean countries, are not excited. They are not happy that the issue of reparation is not on their agenda. So they are moving and putting a lot of pressure that should be on the agenda. Barbados, for example, is insisting that that country is owed about 35 million pounds in slavery reparation. And of course, a lot of African countries are not happy that the UK is trying to sweep that under the carpet. And they are actually calling on the King of England to weigh in on this matter. So it's a very serious matter. Many African countries and the Caribbean countries are insisting that there should be a formal apology by Keir Starmer, who is the head of government in the UK, followed by a reparation for all of the ills and all of the tragedies that befell the Caribbean nations and African countries during slave trade. And I think, for me, I support the move. It is very important. You can't just sweep that under the carpet.
You can blame them asking for compensation for years of slavery. And has slavery even ended? We have a different form of slavery today. In international economic system, milking and exploiting some parts of the world, to the benefit of others. It's a system that is not fair at all. Let's look at the last paper, metro.co.uk, Tower Block Baby. Remarkable story of an unborn child of a woman who fell from the balcony of a 17-story building. That child was delivered safely by doctors. It's a miracle. This baby was meant to live in Kechi.
Yes, I think this story is just a mixture of tragic, gut-wrenching, unimaginable, and also of hope. Her baby, little Posse, was born 5 weeks early. struggling and fighting for her life in critical care. I don't know how else to wrap my head around the story. Just the words tragic, just gut-wrenching, and just a story of hope as well, and resilience. It's.
I think you just, Constance captured it perfectly in one word: miracle.
Yeah.
All right, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much, Constance and Eo, for being on the program. That's Daybreak for you. Next is the morning show, and as you know, every day does indeed matter here on Arise News. I am Ndi Amogu, thanking you for watching.
See you tomorrow. I am Nkechi Nana.
I am Adesua Omoruwan. Good morning.